Hi, everybody. Uh, I'm all ready to cut up and crack jokes and all that shit. And then James says all this nice stuff, and it's going, oh my God, you know, how blessed are we? Um, something I'm not necessarily inclined to do. Alice had asked me quite some time ago to do this, and it was booked for a long time. And so I just got reminded of it yesterday or today or something by some little thing I'm trying on my brand new Apple iPhone 11 or whatever, something like that. And I'm trying. So it reminded me. So I sent out all these flyers, and I think I sent them out to a whole bunch of Square Johns too, people who aren't even in AA, but I think a few of my closest friends seem to have got them. And I can't even mention you by name because there's so many of you here. And just a special thanks to this group as well for this sort of gathering of folks who have put this Fellowship of the Spirit stuff together in the last 6 years, man, oh man. And I always give you homage when I get the opportunity. And I let people know that this Tuesday night and Wednesday night stuff that you guys got going on, it pulled so many people around the world together and brought a closeness. Some of it was experienced at the World Conference in Vancouver. Like we were all talking about this meeting, about how we would get together at this time and crack jokes and make fun of one another. You know, yeah, Billy Swan on here, and he just a great, funny guy. You know, I can imagine drinking with him. He's mental, it's crazy. And we sit here, and I feel like a brother to him. He laid it down just a few hours ago on another meeting, and I feel like a brother to him. Same with guys like Terry, and how did we get so close? Hey, brother, I got to put my arms around Terry and hug him. Many of you here have had experiences with face to face, and I'll tell you, the power of the fellowship has really become known to me probably in the last 10 years of my sobriety, highly amplified by the Zoom experience. And then it's now carried into how I live day to day in my Alcoholics Anonymous life and in my personal life out there in the world. I don't take the friendships for granted. I don't take the closeness for granted. And and I see Lana on here and Calvin, and God love you, and and see how close we get. And Calvin, the word about Calvin's passing got out, and people were coming together and loving on one another. And I was sitting in meetings hearing people quoting him and all that. And it's just such a beautiful thing. These people stay alive, and their spirit is here. Thanks for having me. I love talking about this stuff. Getting directed to a certain part or anything like that is more difficult than, let's say, just having a new guy who's struggling with this and then coming up with some rudimentary ideas. Because if you don't know anything about me, I'm not going to be that deeply complex philosophical dude that's going to tell you about the God thing. That's not what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to you about boots on the ground, being a self-centered dickhead most of the time, and then struggling with that process of life and having been defeated to turn to this power. Now, the only difference between, I'm 38 years sober, the only difference between now and say 24 years ago when I had this transition to move towards God, I've been moving towards God for 24 years. And some days I feel like I'm further away than I ever have been. But the only difference now in the transition is how quickly I get back to center. It's how quickly I get back to center in the spiritual life. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a member of the Prince George Group in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. What makes me alcoholic is that when I take alcohol into my system in any amount, when I start drinking, it's impossible or very difficult for me to stop. I'd say impossible to stop. And that's a bad problem to have. But the answer to that problem is don't take the first drink. That doesn't work for a guy like me and for a lot of the people on this call that we're with. It doesn't work for us. Not drinking is not a good solution to what I suffer from. So I will always drink again. I'm an alcoholic because I can't stop when I start and I can't stop starting. And the thing about it is it gives us an indication in some of our literature that I can't get sober on a non-spiritual basis. It's not like I ever really tried. I mean, prison, jail was kind of a non-spiritual basis. That kept me dry for a little while. Those things helped a little bit to intervene. But on a non-spiritual basis, and I wasn't looking for a spiritual basis, but on a non-spiritual basis, nothing seemed to work. And as a self-centered driven person, I would constantly swear off and think that I could do that, pull that off. And I would just fall flat on my face again. And the thing is that I would embark and engage in the process of active alcoholism and then realize I had engaged in the process of actual alcoholism. It wasn't like a light switch for me. I didn't convince myself that I was well, because I was not. I was homicidal. I was an angry, pissed off guy when I wasn't drinking. And so the return to drink was always going to come. But I'd be well into it before I realized what the issue was, what the problem was. And the problem wasn't the drinking. The problem was the untreated alcoholism. My alcoholism demands treatment. It demands it. And if I try not to drink today, it demands some form of treatment. And that treatment will sometimes be gambling, or it'll be sex or sexism, or it'll be kind of some sort of directive around filling myself and my soul with some sort of a, stuff. And that's what happens. And then I realize it, and because I crash, and then I get back on track. Like I was saying earlier when I was talking, that's what basically my life has looked like. I'm all the while, like I want to get to this place that where I need to talk about what we're discussing today, not just because, and a lot of people have heard my talk. You know how it happened. July 16th, 1987. I was in a jail cell again, framed, of course, but again, I was in a jail cell. And I was brought to my knees in that jail cell, and I screamed out, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And in my darkest and desperate hour, I heard a voice say, you don't have to. You don't have to live like this anymore. And that was July 16th, 1987. I've never lived the same way since. But I've got to tell you, from that point for the next 14 years, I didn't drink. Not a whole lot else changed. The raw violence and the criminality and the anger and the childhood stuff and all that stuff all stayed with me. And it wasn't going to go anywhere. My life got better because there were less incidents of violence, and there was less incidents of courts and going to prison. And my life got better. I had family, and I had all this kind of stuff. And at 14 years sober, I met a man who put me on my knees in second and third steps. And for the first time in my life, I had an understanding of what wasn't there. I was sober in 14 years, two-stepping. It wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't the thing. It's in their literature. It's called two-stepping. It's don't drink and help people. And if you don't know anything about alcoholics or addicts, I'm 200 some odd pounds, and I'm coming into this Alcoholics Anonymous thing, and what we were doing all the time was moving people. Alcoholics and addicts move a lot. Usually other people's shit, but they move a lot. So I didn't know what else to do. It was not drinking, going to meetings, and moving people. And that was it. Steps 1 and 12. Don't drink, help people. That's all. Had a stable of guys I sponsored at 14 years sober, 25 years with 25 sponsees, giving them direction on their lives. And all of it had to do with basically a wraparound, don't drink, go to meetings, just hang out, stay close, that kind of stuff. And there was no other form of sponsorship. I would solve their problems. They would call me with a problem, and I'd offer them a solution. Me. You were getting your direction from me. It's like, oh my God. And I thought I was doing the A&As. I thought I was doing AA for 14 years. You guys know it. A lot of people here, I was speaking at conferences and meetings, and I was doing all kinds of acting, service, and all that kind of stuff, but I just missed something. I missed the steps. I missed 2 through 11. That's all. Just that. That's all that was missing. And separations, divorces, charges, children, surprise, all kinds of stuff going on in my sober life. Going to the A&As. God damn it, I didn't drink one day at a time. So that was my life. And when Mark put me on my knees and opened up the door to my understanding that God is either everything or else he's nothing, what's your choice? He could hear in my voice that I knew that there was something. So the proposition is, you now believe you're willing to believe. He said, I could tell that you believe that there's something, and I did. And he said, well, is everything or nothing, and what's your choice? And I thought to myself, where is he getting this shit? And all I said, well, there's got to be everything. And I started to cry. And he said something about selfishness and self-centeredness, and would you say a prayer with me? And he moved the coffee table, and we said the third step prayer. When I got up, I felt the same way that I had 14 years before in that jail cell. I felt like I had been ripped free of the stuff that had been on my shoulders for all of those years. It was a mounting and just accumulating and getting larger and heavier. And that was how I lived. I had a heavy heart, heavy laden life. And it was removed. It was removed in that moment. I've never been the same since. I do inventory. I share that inventory with somebody. I get an understanding what 6 and 7 is about. And I ask God to take these defects of character and stuff because I've been trying to work on them and it wasn't having any effect. I just got to be a better con. I just got to be a better manipulator. I just got to be a better liar. That's all. I could con a room at any place I went to, and I thought, I'm just being honest. And I was never honest in my life. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. And I'm sober 15, 16, 17 years. And I find out that I got to get God in the mix. Well, what does that mean? I have no understanding of this God. I have no understanding of this power. I had that spiritual experience on July the 16th, 87, and I had no idea how to connect to that power personally. None. I was disconnected in AA for years. For years. I had that experience, and I started moving towards the light. When I started making amends, I knew that something of great amount was happening. I knew it. Why? What am I doing up there making amends? How did this happen? And this, when you're told that the person that sits down to write inventory in step 4 is not the same person as in step 9, we're not kidding you. When I started going out there and knocking on doors, I began to have the spiritual experience that I believed that everybody had been talking about. I began to believe that there was a change happening in me with an openness to whatever power was available. Religiosity went out the window. The understanding of God started to go right down deep in my stomach, deep inside of me. That power existed inside of me. And I had been blocking it with all this weight that he kept removing from me. He removed it on July the 16th, 87. He removed it when I was 14 years sober with Mark. And I keep bringing this stuff back on because self is driving things. Self. And I don't even know what that's separate from me. Self is doing things. Ego is doing things that I don't even want to be a part of. And I know that some of you understand that. And I'm sad that some of you don't yet. But you will. And anybody who's new here tonight, I hope this talk stays on the ground, on the boots on the ground. I never denied God. I just never felt connected to God. And the things that would happen in my life would separate me from that connection. And when it wouldn't be filled with doubt, I would just say, this is bullshit. You know, this is what is this? All I do for you, I move people every weekend. You know, all I do for you. And so I'm going through this life, and now I'm moving into this sort of different level of sobriety, and I get to meet some of you people. I meet some of you people on the road. I meet some of you people in conference rooms. I meet some of you people, and we're brotherhooding of the spirit. Like we are getting very, very close and intimate, and then the talk of God begins to become real to me. It's a safe proposition to talk about. And we begin to explore and examine and figure out. And again, so I look at this. I just want to talk. So it says, right before it says they are mad at, okay, we found that the actual good results of prayer are beyond question. They are matters of knowledge and experience. When you talk to me about prayer and meditation, I immediately remember the prayers of my youth. And almost every time, still to this day, when I get down on my knees, and I do it every day, every night, not every morning, every day, every night. When I get on my knees, what comes to my mind is my childhood prayers, still after all of this time. And it begins with those childhood prayers, and it goes right into my consequential prayers, my life prayers today. You know, I've been absolutely blessed with the ability to be open to this sort of feed that's coming into my head and my heart. And usually it starts in my heart and then goes to my head. I have to sit quietly for a while. But it says there are matters of knowledge and experiences. All those who have persisted have found strength not ordinarily their own. And that's on page 104 of the 12 and 12. Apologize to the Cornwall group, 5th edition group there, because I think they're all big book thumpers and they don't have a 12 and 12 at hand. But that information is in the 12 and 12. You'll understand what it means when it says all those who have persisted have found strength not ordinarily their own. This is what I came to talk about. Now, some of you might know Don Major. Some of you might know of him, and you might know him. Don wrote this magnificent book, and I'm not shitting you. This is February 17th. See it? I'm going to read it to you. This is February 17th. Good morning. Our keynote is persistence. Today's meditation emphasizes that drawing near to God in quiet communion is the purpose and goal of all worship. I agree, but experience has convinced me that prayer and meditation are interdependent with my actions and specifically with my treatment of God's children. And now that's what I'll come back to. I agree, but the more my behavior is in sync with God's will, the easier it is for me to draw close to God in prayer and meditation. Gratefully, it is not necessary for me to have clean hands in order to connect with God. Isn't that something? But I must be striving to have them in order to effectively do so. We don't go for perfection. We go for progress, but we strive for perfection. We go to that direction. Conversely, seeking God through prayer and meditation clears my channel with the divine spark, which makes it easier for me to act in harmony with God's will and treat my fellows well. I told you this was going to be boots on the ground. This isn't horse shit that you're going to airy-fairy stuff that you're going to have to hope for the best. This is about this is what it looks like to be treated spiritually from this malady. It is another example of the magic which flows from the joining of God's power and grace with our faithful actions. I love you all. That's Con Major's daily reading. Now, what happens in that is when I said it at first, I said, if you have this sort of, should we talk about knowledge? We talk about feeling. If you have this sense that there is a power, that perhaps it's an absolute belief, so that is in you. What is there to substantiate that? What is there to signify that or represent that? Or how is that shown? Well, I got news for it. It's not judgment. I don't even know if it's judgment. Maybe it's, I don't know. But we, those who have been lit, can see others who have been lit. So what I mean by that is we're not out there judging you. We can just see whether you've been lit or not. That's it. And if that is true, then those that have been lit can see those who are still in the dark. And if that's true, and without judgment, we offer a spark or we offer some sort of incendiary device, like a hand holding in a prayer or a nod or a wink to anybody who struggles with the power. If we do that, that's boots on the ground spiritual living. I cannot, you can't keep it if you don't give it away and all that stuff. People think that means sobriety. That means like not drinking. You can't keep it if you don't give it away. It means my spiritual wholeness, my spiritual sense of God. You know, so when it says all who persisted, I don't know, it's 25 after, so I think I got about 5 or 8 minutes. You guys gotta let me know because you guys, anybody here who knows me knows I will not shut up.
You got 17. You got 17 minutes, Marty, and I'll tell you when you got 5.
That jacket's gone. Look at that jacket gone. All right, 17 minutes. All right, that's also boots on the ground. What does this look like? All right, I'm gonna tell you a little story, and I thought about this today in my prayer meditation, and this came up in my prayer meditation. Hardly ever happens, but this came up. This meeting. Guess what came into it when it said persistent? All those that persist. All those that persist in what? In prayer and meditation. All those that persist. I have a friend who's passed. His name is Sandy Beach. Google him if you like. Sandy was an amazing human being. I don't know what I don't know. You guys are all at a meeting and you don't know what you don't know. Unless you do, which I don't know how that'd be possible. I don't know what I don't know. So I'm spending time with this guy. We're talking. I'm very enamored by him and his message. I met him a couple of times, and Kevin and I would go down and have dinner. And one of the things that happened was his daughter was murdered. His daughter was murdered and found on the front lawn of her home in Connecticut. And what happened was he got the call. He was going in for a knee surgery that he'd been waiting on for a long, long time. And I tell this story simply because it exemplified for me, it put into place for me what we are doing here, boots on the ground. So he gets the call, and Conway's daughter says, Dad, you got this surgery. You got to get it done. You've been waiting too long. We'll get you up here as soon as possible. And Sandy flips the phone off, and he lays back with the phone on his chest, and 2 thoughts, he said, went through his mind. He said, I'm going to have to forgive the perpetrator. And the second thing was, why not now? Think about that. Think about it. Sandy told that story, and he told it to me live, and we sat there, and I was blown away. I thought to myself, because I'm limited in my intellect, and I thought to myself, can I ever have that? Can I ever have that? Sandy went on years later to describe it. He said to me, again, Kevin and I were down there, we were at a Smitty's or something like that. We're down there having this dinner. And he says, you know what? He said, I was going to meetings, I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was, answering the call. And when I got the opportunity, I go speak and I do these kinds of things. And I'm just loving AA, sitting in the middle of it, moving forward. I'm practicing these things the best way I can. And step 4 through 9, he's doing it on a regular basis. He's sharing with other alcoholics. The practice of step 10 is taking care of itself. It's He's living that way as he's going on his day. He's watching for things, and when they crop up, he's living that way. And he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he's instituting money in an account. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that he's investing in something. He doesn't know that, nor did I. Even though he told me this is what he did, because he didn't think that he had the wherewithal to survive something of that magnitude. His other daughter then passed away in June, only 4 months later, of acute alcoholism. She died from drinking. And so he has these two losses. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you do that? How do you survive that? And he said to me that all those years of practicing these principles in all of my affairs, I had no idea that when the time came to live spiritually, it would be there. The resolve, the peace, the serenity would be there under all conditions. Now, he told me that story. Why do we tell each other our stories? You know, I heard Jane speak a few months ago in Scarborough, and it was absolutely fantastic. I shoot my mouth about a couple of things she said ever since. Why do we tell other people's stories? We tell our stories because it's familiar to us. Why do we sometimes pick out pieces and fire it out there about other people's stories? I think it's the reason we share them. Because you guys know my story, and you know my spiritual development as a result of my story. I'm an ignorant, self-centered dummy, and I'm in AA full board. I love it, and I just love it. I love AA. And what Ralph White said to me just a few months ago, he says, you know, Marty, your experience isn't the only experience. I say, yeah, actually, I think it started out, you know what your problem is, Marty? You think your experience is the only experience. And I did, again, I'm too dumb to know whether those are insults or not. I just know they changed my life immediately. And so what I'm saying here is that you guys, again, you know my story. I'm driving to my meeting. I get the call that Sarah's hung herself. My daughter Sarah has hung herself, and I lose it. And I'm in the car, and I'm just losing. And I get down to the Prince George group, my home group, and I see Brian, and I tell him what happened. And he says, what do you want to do? I said, well, let's get these guys settled into the meeting, and we'll go down to the hospital. I go down to the hospital, and I see my wife, Leslie. By the time I got to put my arms around her and kiss her on the cheek and tell her everything was going to be okay, I had driven, you know, and Brian brought me down to the hospital. So you're talking about 25 to 30 minutes. The man in the front seat of the car and the man who was giving Leslie some comfort was not the same man. You want to know what the 10th step is? I just told you. The man who was in the front seat of the car was not the same man 30 minutes later. And I went up, and you guys know the story. Sarah ended up living. I put my hand underneath her head, kissed her on the head, told her it was going to be okay because I knew it was. And Sarah lived. And Sarah went on, and she went on back to the streets, and the streets got her, and she's doing her thing. And then I get the news that my daughter, Dana, has a brain cancer. And I lose my shit again. And I'm in my office, and then I get the call, and I'm thinking, what the hell? And I go into the room with Jason, and 2 seconds after I get the call, I'm angry, and I'm raging, and I go and I scream out to God. These are prayers, guys. Don't delude yourself that what you say is not a prayer. I'm going to God with some shit. That's a prayer. And so I'm screaming at God, and then you know, I come out of the door, and I realize, oh my God, I can't. It says, when they crop up, what do? I got to follow the process here. We learn nothing. And I tell my coworker exactly the news I just got. And I said, I got to get downstairs. My daughter's coming right here, right now. So I go down the stairs. By the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, about 12 or 14 minutes later, Dana pulls into the back parking lot. And I put my arms around her and I tell her, it's going to be okay. Because I knew it was. Okay? All those that persisted in prayer and meditation. Look, I can have these debates and screaming matches, and God has never let me down. I got a couple more minutes, and I'm going to tie it up with this. I have always loved the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, but for 25 years, I got so focused on the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 steps, all I could really focus on was who wasn't doing it right. And that's okay. That's okay. I burnt out after 25 years. So what are you going to do? I had ruffled a few feathers. That's it. So, but what happened to me was, we get a call that Sarah, again, our beautiful daughter Sarah, has ran into some trouble, and she's not good. She's up in the Parry Sound Hospital, and zip right up there. And This is an absolute love story, guys. I got to tell you, I got 4 daughters. She's my favorite, and all my daughters know that she's my favorite. Well, I zip up there and I grab her hand, and she's in the bed, and she's not coming around. She's not coming around. I still am hanging on to some ideas that medicine will maybe do something here. If you've ever been beside a loved one, as they were already gone and weren't willing to accept it or understand it, this was my experience. And I held her hand for 2 solid days. And I cried and I wept, and the pain of seeing her hand, which was all broken and chafed and dirty, and underneath her nails was all filth, and the cracks in her hand were unbelievable. And I held her hand in my hand, and for 2 days. And I cracked when it came time to let her go. I cracked and I cracked. That's how I describe it. I could hear it. I don't crack. Sociopathic at 19, I don't crack. You know, it was a misdiagnosis, but I don't crack. I cracked. My grandson was there. The rest of my kids were there. And for the next 10 days, I sat in this armchair I'm sitting in right now and contemplated how I was going to give her the best send off I could. UAAs poured into the house and poured into the house and poured into the house with all of your love and your messages and your kindness and your lasagnas and your fucking, oh my God, I had so much food. We try to eat our feelings away, I suppose, but that's what we were doing. And I let you do it because somebody's brought chicken wings. So, but the whole house was full of people, and it's okay. I don't begrudge that at all. I got thousands of messages from people on this call. And time that came for the service, I'll get through this quickly, John. The time came for the service, and it was 9:30 in the morning, and we all sort of gathered up at the place, and I was a cracked man. I was beaten, and people who love me and know me, they couldn't understand and never seen me like that. Guys I sponsor, they rallied around me, but they'd never seen me like that, and I felt the fear in their eyes. It wasn't the fear. I just, I was just cracked. And lots of people in here had a similar difficulty where you lost a child, or some great difficulty with losing somebody you love. And you know what I'm talking about. I was broken. And some of you guys started to pour in the room. And my familiarity, because we had the service at where my home group meets, so the familiarity began to become very comfortable with me when you knuckleheads all started showing up. And some of you, even some of you self-centered bastards who needed to tell me your shit that morning. God love you. You needed to lay. Oh, I just got something that must be shared. I know your daughter's the service is going on, but I need to tell you about this relationship that's going bad. So thanks, buddy. And then I go away from that and I think, oh God, you got a sense of humor, man. That's how you're going to pull me out of this, right? That's how you're going to pull me out of this. So 10:30, 11 o'clock rolls around. I'm a little light. Noon or 1 rolls around, and it's not so bad. I'm not hungry, so I pass on lunch, but I'm just saying hello to 600 people who are there, and we're milling around, and around 2 o'clock the service starts. And we carry Sarah's ashes into the chapel, and the minister gets up and he does this thing. He was a lovely man. His wife was wonderful. Brian, my workshop partner, you guys all know him. You got to hear him play guitar and sing. He's beautiful, and he sang "Wildflowers" by Tom Petty. If you don't know the song, "Wildflowers" by Tom Petty, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Everybody felt it. Everybody felt it. Sarah, do you remember Sarah? Sarah J., you remember Sarah? Yeah. Like, everybody loves Sarah. She would come up for air every once in a while in AA, and then she'd go underground and disappear again for a couple of years, and then she'd come back up, and she'd make people in AA fall in love with her, and then she'd get back out there on skids, and God love her, but the room was packed. And Deborah from Lancaster, she gets up there and she's going to read the prayer of St. Francis. And so the minister steps back. Deborah goes up. The place is packed. I forget how many people were there, but there had been 1,200 coming through the day, but it was packed. And she starts reading the prayer of St. Francis, and everybody in unison in the church joined her. And the minister started to cry. And at the end of the ceremony, he comes up, he's hugging me, he's sobbing. He says, I have never heard prayer like that in my life. Nobody in my congregation knows that prayer. Nobody. And I'm like, hey, what? This is AA. This is the Brotherhood of Man right here. And by 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I felt a lot better. And at 5 o'clock, and then everybody was going out for dinner. I stayed back with a couple of new guys. And at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, all my old friends from Burlington had come into the hall, and they started spinning Sarah stories when she was young, and we started laughing and joking. And I'm telling you guys something, at 11 o'clock at night, when it was just Stuart and me left, Sarah, a guy who can't even get sober, it was just me and Stuart left, bagging up the garbage, bagging up the trash. We were laughing, there was music playing in the background. I was healed. Like that. Those who persist, it takes action. It takes the feet to move. I sat in this chair for 8 or 9 days in the agony and the pain, which I'm not suggesting. People are going to want to talk to me about grief. I'll always grieve that loss. Even my daughter Diana, who's not one of us, she doesn't understand. She goes, "How did you heal?" I'm not cracked anymore. I don't know what else to say. Right over here on that. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's one of those moving picture frames. And Sarah keeps coming up every couple of minutes. And I either smile or I weep. But every time I thank God for the blessing and the peace surrounding her loss. And I use this story and stories like it to help other people in Alcoholics Anonymous. Not to get out of their grief, to get out of themselves. Alcoholism is a selfish, self-centered disease. That's what it is. It isn't the losses. It isn't all that shit. You go TED Talk. It's a connection. We've got to have boots on the ground. I say this every time I speak now, and I know why. You heard Don's message. If you heard what I read in Don's message, maybe you weren't listening. Maybe you don't like Don. Maybe you don't know, what's it going to do? Read a Bible? Read a biblical thing to us now? I don't know. You close your mind. That's the book, Stumbling in the Right Direction. A drunk with a bottle. And I'm going to tell you something. I am never, ever closer to the power, to the God of my understanding as I am when I'm with you. Never. Not in a church, nothing. In Sweetgrass, nothing. Nothing. In a sweat. I am never closer to God than I am when I'm with you. All this isolation and getting one with nature and all that kind of stuff. I love that shit. But then I need you. I got to get back to you. I got to get back to that mouthpiece who comes into my ear at 9:30 in the morning on the funeral day of my daughter and tell me his relationship shit. I got to get with you guys. You know what I mean? I'm never closer to the power than I am when I'm with you. Never. So how does this work? When these crop up, what do? I ask God who wants to remove it. My daughter has died. I'm in such pain, God. Please remove this. What do? I tell somebody about it. Oh, guess what's happening? They got this shit on me. And what do I do then? And then I make amends if I've harmed anybody in the process. And then what do? I turn my attention to someone that can help. If I follow those tenets, this is my truth. It's Sandy's truth. It's my truth. It's the truth of people who have success and sobriety. There are no problems anymore. None. I don't have any problems. I'm sitting here today, February 7th. People don't like when I say this, but I don't have any problems. I don't. Just got solutions. I just got solutions. And this reading that I chose today, all those who persistent have found strength, not ordinarily their own. If you asked me what I was going to do if such and such happened, I would have told you ahead of time a very different story than what happened. Why? Because I only have the strength that I know. I turn to him who has all power, and all of a sudden I find strength that is not ordinarily my own. And people around me go, "Oh my God, really? It's just not there? The crack isn't there. The pain isn't there. The suffering isn't there. The loss is there. The grief is there." My beautiful girl. My beautiful girl. My beautiful girl, Sarah. Right there. That's her. That's her. Reaching for the stars. That's her. Yeah. That's her. Right. So that's what I got for you, folks. Finding strength that's not ordinarily your own. It's got to come from somewhere else. It has to come from somewhere else. I don't get close to it unless I'm close to you, and then it comes. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening. And if you got questions, fire them right at me. Even if you don't like me or anything like that, fire them questions. I like people that don't like me. I like conversing with them a lot.
Is it Lynch? That's how you pronounce it? Come on up, please.
That's actually my last name. So my first name is Katie. Hi. And Ali, I saw you speak. I'm from Three Legacy in Barrie. You spoke a few weeks ago and it was very beautiful. I took a lot from it. I was very grateful. And Marty, I was in your 12 and 12 in September in Barrie. And then you spoke at the Sunday Shiva Shrine. And I just can't seem to get enough. I always learn so much and I'm really, really grateful. I love it. You said at the 12 and 12 that sort of God is everything and God is nothing. And that terrified me at the time because I wasn't quite sure. And the whole godly thing kind of scared me. I was a big cynic of the whole, higher power thing. And now I'm there. God is definitely everything or he is nothing. And I do choose everything for sure. But when you said, you also said what you said tonight at that 12 and 12, that in this moment, I have no problems. And, and my ego likes to think otherwise. So I'm curious about, I work in mental health. I feel there's some struggles I'm having with my home group a little bit, sort of related to sort of it being a bit of a boys' club. And what my role in that is, and sort of the idea that because I work in mental health, think I'm like you, I like to solve the problem. And that gets me into big trouble because every time I've tried to solve any problem I've ever had, it's a disaster. I light the world on fire and everyone else within a radius of whatever. So I'm just curious. I'm on my knees morning and night. I am doing the prayers and I am persistent. I'm wondering what your sort of daily meditation. I'm a bit lost on that. Like I do the prayers and I do pay attention and I look for the intuition or whatever. But the meditation piece, I think, is missing a little bit for me, just that practice. And I'm curious if you can just give me some sort of an idea what that looks like in your daily practice to just trial and then from that develop sort of my own.
Okay, what was your first name again? I can't hear you, but is it Kelly?
I think it was Katie.
Katie, not Kelly Lynch, the actress. Katie Lynch. Okay, so this process is so individual, and what I know is that after all of these, I used to be very ardent in my structure around this stuff, and somewhere about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, or something, my mornings fell off. And I'm probably batting, and I talk about this openly and honestly, I'm probably batting about 500 for what I used to do with diligence. But what happens is, and here's what I want folks to understand about prayer and meditation, is God is your guide. God is the power. God is deep down inside. So what happens with me in the morning now is that I will get up, and the moment that I recall that there's something that I'm supposed to be engaged in, which is this connection, I wink. I just look up and I wink. Now this is just me. But my evening connection is large. It's thorough. I'm like 999% on my evening. All through the day, when stuff gets on me, I have a very difficult profession. I still have kids and grandkids, and all through the day, deep breathing is something that I strategize with. And the moment that I lean my head back and take in air through my nose, I begin to meditate. And sometimes it lasts 30 or 40 seconds. Sometimes it lasts 30 or 40 minutes. But it happens to me every time I go to it. And it talks about being persistent in that. Here's the caveat, okay, is that very seldom do what I'm getting better at this length of sobriety is getting in front of it. Everything used to be recuperative. Like everything used to be, I hit the wall and all kinds of mayhem and shit goes flying. And I have to take all these steps and gather all the stuff out of it and try to correct these things spiritually. And what happens now is that I kind of get in front of it a little bit, and there's some terrible stuff going on around me. And it's kind of like, and I'm okay. And I'm standing right in the middle of it. Now, even when that happens, I take in a deep breath through my nose and just energize my gratitude in my intellect. Just energize it in my intellect. I just think hard on that thing. It's like, and something's going on right in front of me, and I'm thinking, thinking, where would I be without you? Where would I be without you? How can I be of help right here, right now? I'm so grateful for your direction in all of my affairs. That's how the dialogue goes on in my head. So that's how it shows up today. It's very casual, but I think casual is not just right for me. I think that this diligence that we have, sometimes we look at these steps and we get into this hardcore structural stuff, and I think you might need to just sort of, with your sobriety, engage in some relaxation around that. Stuff about the old boys club at the meeting, I can't help you with that. I am part of the old boys club in my meeting.
Thank you, Katie. Nice to see you. Thank you, Marty. Pat, come on up, please.
Thanks, Ellie. My name's Pat. I'm an alcoholic. Marty, thank you so much. Wow, powerful. I don't know if I heard this right, but did you say I don't have to have clean hands to connect with God? Did you say that?
That was I stole that from Don.
Can you just quickly tell me what you're reading with that?
What the reading was?
Yeah, what does that mean that you don't have to, I don't have to have clean hands to connect with God. So in other words, what does that look like?
It doesn't matter what kind of madness or what kind of soup you've gotten yourself into, what kind of difficulties or mud or the quagmire that you've gotten yourself into. You don't have to have clean hands to connect to God. The circumstances I'm so, Pat, like lately, in the last few years of my sobriety, it's the circumstances of life when I'm working with people that drives me nuts. It's like, because they're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. So this clean hands thing is like, I don't have to have clean hands. There can be mud all over them, and I can be free of whatever it is that's causing the disturbance. I can be free of it immediately, and I won't remember it a year from now. That's how important it is. Any of your problems on here, I don't need to put anybody's stuff. Yes, I do. Your problems don't matter. You think they do. So you have a narrative in your head that gives them power, and they don't matter because you're going to have a whole different set of shit going on a year from now. And you want to remember the problems you're having today that are draining the hell out of you and taking you. It's like, oh my God, spiritually, it's like to be free of that in a conceptual way helps me to be free of it in a spiritual way. But the clean hands thing is that some people won't go to God because they think they're right in the thick of it. Say somebody was struggling with pornography, or somebody was like in the thick of a real serious difficulty that is, they see themselves as dirty. That's just an analogy, right? They don't think they can go to God on that. They got to get clean first. That's not how it works.
Thank you, Marty. Lana, come on up, please. We love you, Lana.
Hi, everyone. Lana, alcoholic. Marty, thank you. And Ali and everyone else, thank you for your service. Marty, you know this is hard for me. And what it is that I'm doing everything that I've always done in my recovery. And today I realized I'm going to have 37 years, and I've been with Calvin 36. And I don't know how to do this recovery without him. I don't know how to do it. And I know I go on meetings and people share things that are way worse than what I'm going through, way worse. And yet, throughout the day, the struggle is so real for me. My heart is breaking. I don't know how to stop. I can't imagine the loss of a child. I can't. This is the only marriage I've ever had. I'm so lost, Marty. If you could just tell me something, please, I would appreciate it. Just anything to make it when the pain comes, but I can quickly get out of it and not do the suffering part. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, Lana. And here I'm faced with the critical question that I lay out there for the challenge all the time. The love and the friendship I've watched over the last couple of weeks, that it goes your way. I hope you feel it. I hope you feel how much everybody cares. The idea here is that it's not The degree of the difficulty is not relevant. And you lost your loved one, you lost Calvin, and what happens is your mind develops a narrative that you're not going to be able to be sober without him. You are. It's a conversation, it's a dialogue in your head, and none of it's true. And it's your ego's way of separating you from the power. When I say to you, when someone says, "What can I do? What is it can be done?" I'm a boots on the ground guy. Is I ask God at once to remove it. When it crops up, the pain, the anguish, the despair, when it crops up, what do? I ask God to remove it. Please, God, take this. And then I tell somebody. I make a call. I tell whoever's in the room. It doesn't say call your sponsor, but you can do that too. You tell somebody about it. And then if you've been cranky or you've harmed anybody in the process, you make amends. And then you turn your attention to someone who can help. And you know what, Lana? What happened to me, I've got 5 new sponsees in the last couple of weeks. It's because I'm constantly turning my attention to someone I can help because this stuff crops up. So it might sound trite, but it works, and it works under all conditions. This is where it says, this is a plan. This works. This is where it works. When you look in your big book, and this is where it's saying, if you practice this stuff and you're persistent, it works. It really does. I have the sign on my wall in my living room. It works. It really does. I have a sign there because I have evidence of that. It's not a theory anymore. The spiritual life is not a theory. It must be practiced. I would challenge you just to sort of look at that step 10 and just have a read and say, give it a shot. It's going to take a lot. Is it going to stop the pain? Probably not, but it'll stop the suffering. It will stop the suffering. I love you, man. We're all going to miss him, but certainly not like you.
Thank you, Lana. Thank you. All right, we have 3 minutes left. Probably won't be able to get to both you ladies. I'm sorry. Lucky Lorraine. Lorraine, come on up, please.
There we go. Hi. Hi, I'm Lorraine. I'm alcoholic. My heart goes out to you, Lana. I know what that's like to my mom died. I took care of my mom here for 10 years before she died. It was just her and me and the dog, and they both went to the angels within 4 weeks of each other. And I couldn't even come home. I mean, what's home like without what you're used to, what you've lived with for all these years? It's tough. Anyway, Marty, I love you. I thank God for this meeting and all the things that I've learned. I knew when I came back to AA that the 11th step was, the 11th step. And I've learned so much in this meeting. I have a stack of books. My favorite book that I got that has changed my life is The Spirituality of Imperfection that I heard here. And just having, the opportunity to meet you. Actually, Katie stole my question. But I love you. And, I was thinking of our expression, experience, strength, and hope. And we always say, oh, share experience, strength, and hope, experience, strength, and hope. And I was sitting here and I was just meditating on experience, strength, and hope. I mean, that's just extraordinary. And I'm just so grateful to be here. I love you all. I love this meeting. I love you, Marty.
Thank you, Lorraine. We got a couple of minutes left. Raquel, if you want to jump back in.
Shush, I don't know if 2 minutes are enough for me, but okay, now I will take them gladly. Thank you very much. Wow, that was a very moving talk. There was a very moving Q&A. Two things I want to say when you were talking about this idea of coming to God. Exactly, I don't have to have my hands clean. It's like going to the doctor healthy. Like I don't have to do that. I'm coming to you because, right? But you said two things that I want to talk about is we don't have time, but it was the solution part, right? But on the other hand, talking about the experience and what we share with each other, sometimes the demonstration that I can have permission to be in pain, that I can have permission to be very angry, that I can have permission to be imperfect, that I can have permission instead of constantly get rid of this God, get rid of this God, somehow to come to terms to it and say, okay, here you are. Now what we're going to do about it? Because when you describe all these beautiful things, sometimes people may think that you don't have the pain anymore. But I think what I heard you said is the pain doesn't kill you anymore. You befriended it. And it was just so beautiful, you know. It's here, it's there. You showed us your daughter. The pain is still there, but it doesn't make you suffer. So I just wanted to thank you. And my God, it was so painful to hear that you guys are just closing the meeting. I had a crack also. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you, everybody. John, come on back up, please.